Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, yet another alarm is rung in DR Congo as health workers there desperately trying to draw attention to the emotional toll and physical devastation that civilians in the east are suffering amidst an escalating conflict, as health workers say that sexual abuse is increasingly being used as a weapon of war. Also, sickle cell anemia is particularly prevalent across Africa. I hear from one campaign group doing what it can to ramp up awareness and treatment options for sufferers. And Kenyan's Ice Lions get ready to roar. The athletes have hit some pretty big milestones and are braced to take their hockey game up to the next level as they set their sights on more international tournaments. But first, healthcare workers doing what they can for victims of sexual violence in eastern DR Congo say that they've seen a distressing increase in cases. Those treating those targeted by sexual abuse say that since 2021, survivors, both children and adults, have increasingly been presenting with serious physical damage and psychological trauma after ordeals that local medics say are carried out by multiple armed groups operating in the region, some of whom are supported by neighbouring Rwanda or even the Congolese military itself. Emmett Livingston brings us more from Kinshasa.
Women and girls are increasingly being deliberately targeted by combatants on all sides in the conflict in eastern Congo, according to a report released on Tuesday by the NGO Physicians for Human Rights. Cases of sexual violence are soaring. The UN documented 113,000 instances of rape or sexual assault in 2023, and figures from the first half of 2024 are double what they were this time last year. Conflict is driving the huge rise in sexual assault, and particularly the M23 conflict, which erupted 3 years ago and has displaced over 1 million people. Women and girls, who constitute the majority of survivors, are particularly vulnerable. The report, which is based on interviews with local health workers, also found that survivors often only seek medical care after brutally violent encounters such as gang rape. According to Physicians for Human Rights, there's a need to document the abuses in order to pave the way for justice.
What we know is that while many survivors do not want to go to court for justice, for survivors who do, these cases often fail due to lack of proper evidence. And this is a critical moment to be trying to collect that medical legal evidence, in particular for survivors, and to ensure that when they go to a health facility, they are not re-traumatized when they are seeking to have their cases documented and reported. So there is an urgent need right now to support the health sector to be able to receive survivors of sexual violence and to be able to ensure that the forensic evidence of the violations that they've occurred is properly captured.
The call for justice comes after this month the International Criminal Court announced it was renewing its investigations into crimes committed in DR Congo from 2022. According to Physicians for Human Rights, the perpetrators of sexual violence in the region range from militia fighters to Congolese soldiers and even UN peacekeepers. Many survivors often suffer complex medical needs, but the conflict has also severely degraded Congo's health system.
Emmett Livingston there for us in Kinshasa. Well, at least 11 people have lost their lives in Uganda in a road accident that saw a fuel truck careen off the highway before exploding. The blast happened in the town of Kigogwa, only about 25 kilometers north of the capital, Kampala. The tanker was reportedly traveling from Kampala to the north of the country when the accident happened, and firefighters had to race to control the flames before successfully stopping them from reaching a nearby petrol station. Staying with Uganda, the country's main opposition claims that the guilty verdict of 16 of its members accused of treachery followed only after they were forced to confess to the charges. They'd already spent 4 years in jail following arrest in 2021, ahead of 2021's presidential election. Our regional correspondent, Clement de Roma, tells us more.
16 activists from the National Unity Platform have been sentenced by Kampala's General Court Martial for treachery and illegal possession of explosives. This case dates back to 2020 and 2021 when these opposition members were arrested ahead of the presidential elections. The activists supported Bobi Wine, the main challenger to President Yoweri Museveni, and they've already spent 3 to 4 years in detention. According to authorities, the group was found with banned explosives at various locations around the country where Bobi Wine was campaigning. Wine himself was arrested just before the elections actions sparking protests met with a heavy crackdown by security forces that left around 50 people dead. Bobby Wine and a defense attorney claim the accused were forced to plead guilty and seek a presidential pardon. Initially, the 16 pleaded not guilty, but they changed their plea recently. Their prison sentences are expected to be announced this week. This verdict comes as the National Unity Platform is actively organizing for the 2026 elections, where Bobby Wine is expected to challenge Museveni once again.
Now, leading opposition candidate in Mozambique's recent fraught elections accused security forces of having killed his lawyer. Venancio Mondlane claims that Elvino Diaz was deliberately shot dead in his car along with a colleague over the weekend as he prepared to contest the results of the October 9th vote. Now, police have said that they are investigating those deaths. Meanwhile, election observers from the EU say that they're also concerned about the legitimacy of the vote. Although official results aren't yet out, fraud accusations have already been made amidst expectations that the ruling Frelimo party will win both the presidential and parliamentary polls. Well, sickle cell anemia is an inherited blood disorder that can leave sufferers struggling with serious, sometimes excruciatingly painful health complications. Most of the 8 million people worldwide who have the disease are of African descent, and an estimated 240,000 children are born with it on the continent every year. With the right care, though, those with sickle cell can lead full and active lives. But everything from limited awareness to long delays in detecting SCD can negatively affect survival rates. But increasingly, more campaigners are giving their all in pushing for improved care within Africa. Christian Bim is a member of one such advocacy group, and he joins me now from Nairobi. Christian, thanks so much for speaking to me. Now, first of all, give us a sense of where things stand. What kind of progress has there been over the years in terms of understanding and available treatment of sickle cell in Africa or elsewhere?
Thank you so much. What we have to know that the disease was discovered in 1910, and still 1940, the hereditary aspect of it wasn't really understood. And one of the progress is that in 2008, the United Nations has recognized it as a public health priority, and the day of June 19 was recognized as the World Sickle Cell Day. We have now more understanding of the different type of sickle cells. For example, the one that we find in the west of Africa, which is called the sickle cell disease SC, the one in the middle of Africa, the central of Africa, which is called the SS, which is the most severe, and even the one found, for example, in India, which is called the S. Pujam. The rate of mortality is really high between 1 day to 5 years, but with the progress of the medicine and the last discovery of some medication, especially in the US, those people with a good treatment and a good follow-up, they can live longer like normal people without this disease.
So your organization's working really hard to raise awareness of the disease of sickle cell. How do you do that? Are you trying to attract more attention to support sufferers? Are you pushing for more research and development? What are your priorities, particularly within the African context?
What we do is, first of all, to create awareness, especially in terms of knowing this hemoglobin status. Also, we, before getting married or before thinking about a family project, we also engage with politics to give a better support to those people. And what we also do, we give some small training to the people affected by the disease, because some of them, because of the unpredictable crisis, they have difficulty to finish the journey of schooling. They have difficulty to have access to employment. So those training is really helpful for them. And also we give a psychosocial support because of the problem of the self-esteem that they have, the problem of the cultural taboo in some cases, and also the problem of addiction that some of them are going through. That's why we are coming up now with the first European Congress on sickle cell disease, where we will now go to advocate at the European level for recognizing sickle cell disease as a public health priority.
Thank you so much, Christian, for talking us through the work that you are doing with your organisation to try and raise awareness about the impact of sickle cell anemia in Africa and elsewhere. Well, finally...
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Christian. Well, have you heard of the Kenyan Ice Lions? They are Kenya's ice hockey team. And aside from South Africa, Kenya is the only sub-Saharan African country with an ice rink. And recently, the teams achieved a significant milestone, having now become members of the International Ice Hockey Federation. Our team reports.
East Africa on ice. Every week, these players suit up for practice at Kenya's only ice hockey rink. They recently played in their first tournament in South Africa.
The thing I love about the game and how we are progressing is we get better as the time goes by. So some people, online people say, Kenyans can't play properly, this is not a sport for us, maybe athletics, but when you look at the game we played in South Africa, we managed to win a trophy.
In September, the International Ice Hockey Federation voted to accept Kenya as a member. This opens up new opportunities for the team, like the creation of a local league and participation in official international competitions.
Later this month, we're going to take part in a meeting with IIHF and look at what kind of development opportunities there are. Training for coaches, very important in Kenya. Training of players, and just how to run a league and a team. It's all new to us in Kenya, so we need that kind of support. It really means a lot to join the IIHF for the Ice Lions.
Though they're just a small group of players, their passion has already taken them far.
Getting photos.
They even made it to Canada, where they were invited to play alongside the National Hockey League.
Hey guys. Getting goosebumps again.
Robert shares his love for hockey with his family. As president of the Ice Lions, he aims to grow the sport in Kenya.
Some of the dreams and hopes that I do have for the future is for my daughter, should she decide that she wants to get into hockey, she has a smooth and an easier experience.
The Ice Lions are confident that the outlook is warming up for their sport. They're keen to get more funding to ramp up development and eventually compete in more international championships.
I mean, I'm sorry, I can't. That was just too cute. Finally, though, we do have to leave you. And it's actually going to be on an even brighter note with the annual breathtaking sight of the South African capital of Pretoria blushing at those within as her jacaranda trees bloom. Does the body good. That is, though, all we have time for Eye on Africa. Thanks very much for joining us. Do so again if you can. Till then, take care.